Let's talk Mid-South Wrestling.
Oh,
Rodney, let's get to the Mid-South Wrestling. Let me, before we get to that, let me just turn on the Mid-South Wrestling.
hey, there's the Mid-South Wrestling thing. All right.
Mid-South Wrestling. Let's talk Mid-South Wrestling because, guys, I must not be in a good mood tonight because this is not. I was not impressed with this show. Jack liked it, but okay. Let's go ahead and let's talk about it.
Well, we begin the program. This is episode 279, originally aired the January 10th of 1985. Jim Ross and Joel Watts, as Joel Watts has returned from his trip to Hawaii.
And tell by the deep tan.
Yes, and we're really excited about that, Jim Ross. We recap we do a recap, and now Steve Dr. Death Williams, of course, has his helmet barred. Now, of course, he says that he never did have to use it anyway. He was a 4-time All-American, which we continue to be reminded on this program over and over again. And that today on the program, he would face the North American heavyweight champion, Brad Armstrong, and he would prove that he didn't need the helmet, and he really didn't need it at all. So, well, we will find out a little bit later on the broadcast. In our first match, it's Rick Oliver and Dale Vesey facing Tim Horner and Private Terry Daniels. Jack?
I think I'm freezing up again.
Okay, Jack.
I thought he was speechless for me.
I thought, okay. Well, I mean, it was so much tremendous action. Maybe he got lost in the tremendous action. We'll let Jack catch up. What do you think about this?
I thought it was a great man. I think Oliver is spectacular. I don't understand. I don't think he was there for a long period of time. He must just been coming through because I don't remember him being there that long. I don't remember him being there that long. But I thought it was a great match. Just still something about Terry Daniels. I don't know. I just can't put my finger on it, but something just a little off on him.
Well, if you'll notice, our father, who's refereeing this particular match, is all over Terry Daniels for something. I don't know if he didn't just come in and get started and more aggressive or what have you. He was on him for some reason during that match. And, of course, in the end, it's Terry Daniels winning with the Cobra Clutch on Dale Vesey. Then we go to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Bill Watts is giving the Mid-South Wrestling Athlete of the Year award to none other than Jack's favorite hacksaw, Jim Duggan. What did you think about that, Jack?
Oh, well, cufflinks. I think that says enough right there.
Cufflinks given to, and it's a very special kind of cufflinks. And of course, during that same thing, same interview or same presentation, we also give a bottle of booze to Joel Watts at his 21st birthday on that particular event from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Apparently, maybe that was New Year's night. I'm not sure. Anyway, so we come back. It's now we've got an interview with Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, I've not had a bottle of booze that big since I went to the kitchen a little while ago.
Anyway, so Ted DiBiase, who is just awesome in this interview coming up. Did I say interview? I did say interview, and that's fact I wrote down interview. In this interview, Ted DiBiase was great. He was standing there talking with Jim Ross, and of course, he talks about Duggan and what kind of insult it was. And I think, Jack, you would agree. An insult it was that Jim Duggan was announced the Mid-South Wrestling Athlete of the Year. And of course, DiBiase talking about giving Duggan those cufflinks, which, like I think he said, is like putting mag wheels on a Mack truck or something to that degree. DiBiase was just off. He called Duggan no class whatsoever. I mean, I thought he was perfect, absolutely perfect. Of course, he mentioned something about Joel Watts. Who cares about Joel Watts and his 21st birthday? For Jim Ross said, hold it. Let's not. The last time somebody said something about Bill Watts' family, they ended up with a near broken jaws. And he said, well, okay, all right then. Happy birthday, Joel Watts. But what I'm here to talk about is that bum that I laid out in the parking lot here, Jim Duggan. So now we come up with the next one. Match number.
Hey, now don't forget. Now he challenged him to a
that's right.
To a best dressed man contest.
That's right. So match number 2 is for the Mid-South Television Championship. It's the Sheik Hercules Hernandez with General Skander Akbar facing Terry Taylor. Jack, what did you think about this one?
Oh, I thought that was a good match. Terry Taylor's always really good. But yeah, it's Terry Taylor match.
It was good. It was a good match. I enjoyed the match. I thought Terry Taylor did a good job, and Hercules did a good match. Tell a story, even though I think at some point, I believe the people might have been hollering boring to Terry Taylor in that match. I'm not for sure.
Well, I was just waiting to see if we were going to have the Cobra Clutch in 2 consecutive matches, but we didn't.
Well, we did have something similar happen just almost a year ago with Terry Taylor and the Russians, in which Taylor was hung by a rope in that particular instance with the Russians. This time it was Hercules, and of course he's been doing it for a few weeks, using his turban to choke people out. And of course he got with Terry Taylor, had him in the hangman's. Taylor comes over and does the reversal, and then it is Taylor and Landale, or Buddy Landale, comes out. He and Hernandez double up on Terry Taylor, and then it's Iceman King Parson in for the save. And I'll just tell you right now, I put on the show flat.
Yeah, that was flat.
It was flat. And that's what I remember of it. Okay, then the next match is match number 3. Jack Victory facing the Iceman King Parsons. Jack, what do you think about this one?
Well, I like Parsons. He, he's very charismatic. He almost missed the finisher, but Jack Victory was good enough to still sell it for him and put him over. It was okay. It wasn't a great match, but it was an okay match.
Brent?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what Jack said.
In the end, it's the second rope clothesline on Jack Victory. This Buddy Landale comes out to the ring and he challenges the Iceman King Parsons. All 3 referees are out. Then in the next match, right into the next match, it's Buddy Landale versus Parsons. Good chops from Parsons on Landale. You got to give him to that. Parsons then does the second rope clothesline again on Landale. And of course, it's Iceman beating 2 in a row. It's Jack Victory and Buddy Landale going down in defeat on that particular episode. Then one of my favorites. Oh, yeah, the master of the DDT, Jake the Snake Roberts against Mike Jackson. Brent, what do you think about this one?
Oh, that was Jake just showed. The way he wrestled was completely different than anyone else wrestled. He was an innovator. He did not steal nothing from, he might have stolen something from somebody. We just didn't know who it was. But the sliding out of the ring and just the stuff that Jake did was tremendous.
It was what Jake was able to do is keep your attention in the ring. Your all eyes was on him. And whether it was him, like you're saying, sliding out underneath the rope, whatever it might be. And then Jake always makes his opponent look good. Always makes it. Jack, what did you think?
Well, the crowd was into it because Jake gave them hope that Mike could actually win that match. They'd seen Mike get beat, 100 times, I guess, by then. But Mike always had good matches, too. And Jake gave them the feeling that, hey, this little guy might just beat this big guy. Yeah. That's storytelling. That's a guy who's a master of his craft right there.
Jake is just so good in this one. In the end, it's Jake picking Jackson up on his shoulders, dropping down, and then it comes. Yeah, it is the hold that make Jake Roberts famous, the DDT, and it's over. 1, 2, 3. It's Jake Roberts in for the win on that one. Then we get with the handicap match. Rocky King and George South against the Ugandan warrior / giant Kamala with the General Skander Akbar. What did you think about this one, Jack?
Oh, I thought it was a good match. I mean, those 2 guys, if you want somebody to go out there and sell for you, those are the 2 guys you want to sell for you because they were fantastic. And of course, Kamala, he was over with what he did and was very good with, in this match.
Brent, I don't know that I can add to that.
In the end, it's Kamala with the double thrust with the gigantic splash. and the Ugandan Warrior. I think everybody's surprised that he was able to beat both George South and Rocky King. Were you not?
Yeah, I was.
I think Rocky was surprised because he wasn't even in there.
Did I say Rodney King? I'm sorry about that, Christopher. It's Rocky King. Sorry about that. Anyway, it's match number 7. This is where the whole show goes down the tubes as far as I'm concerned. The North American Heavyweight Championship is on the line as the champion, who apparently Jim Ross or Joel Watts, neither one know. Brad Armstrong, the North American champion, defending against Steve Dr. Death Williams. Jack?
Well, it wasn't Steve's worst match.
Yeah.
Brent? Okay, here's my problem. Okay, Brent, people are going to say today, December 7th, 2020, Brent was a really cranky guy. All right, and I'm going to be cranky about this, and I'm going to tell you the reason I'm cranky about it. Here's the problem that I had with this. You open the show up, the North American Heavyweight Champion, Brad Armstrong, going against Steve Dr. Death Williams, and you don't give one interview, not one. You need people, and Jim Cornette, so he'll be happy, a promo for Brad Armstrong. Nothing. No interview whatsoever. Now, Jim Ross will tell people, oh, we gave Brad an opportunity, and we gave him that. Well, tell me when you gave him that interview, because I haven't seen one, Jim Ross, that you gave him between the time that he became the champion and this match he had with Steve Williams. Not once. Not one time, and you gave him an interview. So how do you know he could do the interview when you never gave it to him to do the interview? But that's the first thing. Here's the thing too. During this whole match, Jim Ross and Joe Watts does nothing but talk about Steve Williams during this whole match. Plus, Steve Williams takes the whole match, knowing it was going to a time limit draw. He takes the whole match, and it's just designed to make Brad not look like a strong champion. And I didn't like it in 1985 when I watched it, and I don't like it now. And I don't like it because people will say today when they're talking about Brad Armstrong, oh, he couldn't do the interview. He couldn't do. No, you didn't. As the bookers, you didn't give him the direction to do that because you didn't care if he got over. And that was just the pure and simple point of it. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to have to write this one down. This is a bad day for me.
No, I absolutely agree. And this has been the constant theme with Brad Armstrong since day one. Yeah. They never wanted him to get over since day one. Honestly, Brad can work circles around Steve Williams. He actually can talk circles around Steve Williams. But the difference between Brad and Steve Williams is that Brad wasn't a football player in the Oklahoma University. He wasn't a 4-time All-American that we get to hear over and over and over again. And then just as I said about Sting, I will say about Dr. Death, not one person, not one of our commenters has ever said one of the best matches I've ever seen was with Steve Dr. Death Williams. But however, on this program, we have said one of the best matches we've ever seen is between Jerry Stubbs and Brad Armstrong. We cannot say the same about Mr. Williams, now can we? But so, again, it just shows what kind of one-sided organization that was. With Watts and his man crush on every football player walking on the street. And he'll make even worse decisions with Ed Carl Thomas later. And then this other one that's a big dumb goof, this Thor the Terrible. And you'll find out exactly why he's Thor the Terrible here shortly.
Hey, listen,
they didn't call him Thor. By the way, they didn't call him Thor the Terrible. We called him Thor the Terrible because that's what he was.
Here's the thing, folks. It's not that I'm trying to be mean to Jim Ross or I'm trying to be mean to anybody that says. I've even heard Steve Austin say on his podcast, well, I heard that. Well, you heard that, Steve Austin, but you only heard what someone told you that don't know what they're talking about. Jim Ross doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no clue what he's talking about. He was not given an opportunity to do the interview. It wasn't that he couldn't do it. He wasn't given the opportunity to do it. How could he be doing it if he wasn't given the opportunity
And
to do it?
the only claim to fame that they gave for Brad Armstrong is that he was the son of Bob Armstrong and a former national champion. Well, Brad also was a former national tag team champion. He was also a former Southeastern tag team champion. He was also a former United States junior heavyweight champion. If he would took time to talk to Brad, he might have got a little bit more of what he could do, other than, guess what? I used to watch him on TBS. That's all.
And was one of the youngest national tag team champions of all time. But no, we wasn't going to go that route. But we want today, when we talk about Brad Armstrong, we want to blame him. No, it's the Booker's fault.
Yes,
simple. Ross's fault, Bill Watts' fault, Bill Dundy's fault, Ron West's fault, because Ron West was part of the booking staff at that time in Mid-South Wrestling. So I blame all those people, and Grizzly Smith, those people. Blame yourselves. Don't blame Brad Armstrong.
And the thing about it is, if you got a problem with the announcers or his interviews or whatever, you keep making him do it until he gets it right. That's how it's worked. That's how you work it.
Well, he made Jim Cornette.
Give me one chance, and it's done.
Well, anyway, this has been one for the records today. I tried not to.
I warned everybody last week that this one was going to be this way.
We tried to keep this thing up.
I'm going to have a drink on that. Excuse me, buddy.
I hope, okay. He said drink. I wasn't for sure what he was talking.
Something this here.
But Mid-South Wrestling was a great wrestling organization. I just and all I'm trying to say is I don't like people to be said it was something they did when it wasn't something he did. It was something they did. And to keep that going on in the wrestling business and saying Brad wasn't good on the mic that is a lie, because he was. And in 1985 Continental Championship Wrestling, he showed that he could do the interview and he could do what needed to be done. Brad was good. He could do anything you asked him to do. If you asked him to do an interview that was funny, he could do it. If you asked him, they never asked him to do it. And that's my problem, folks. It's not great wrestling organization. They drew a lot of money in Mid-South Wrestling. I just don't like to hear that people blame Brad for something that was not his, was nothing to do with him.
But I'm sure that they would have allowed Terry Taylor to stand out there and read one of his interviews to the people.
Oh, by the way, he would write his interviews, and he would have his little.
Those are Terry Taylor is yet one of those overrated loudmouths in the back. But when it come right out to the ring, he's another one that we don't have as in our top matches we've ever seen.
Well, I will tell you, the Ric Flair and Terry Taylor at the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, was one of the worst matches I'd ever seen. It was so boring that the people were leaving in droves and to go to the concession.
I actually heard Terry Taylor do an interview about that where he said that he was so blown up 15 minutes into that match. And didn't they go an hour?
I think so, yeah.
I think it was an hour time limit or whatever. But he said if it wasn't for Rick, he'd have never made it through that. He said he was so exhausted that all he could do was just listen.
That match was bad. Match was bad. We were there, and I went and got me a pizza too at the concession stand. And let me tell you, when you went and got
a line, I mean, we're just lucky that there was a line there, because if not, we'd have had to come back and finish watching that match.
Anyway, we will talk about Mid-South Wrestling and maybe a more uplifted, not upset
about it
video on Mid-South Wrestling.
Even further.
By the way, I am going to start. I've looked through all my stuff. I am going to start looking at the booking sheets. We're going to start looking at booking sheets of Mid-South Wrestling that correlate with what we're talking about. Also, the actual book of Bill Watts that he would write down in. He used to make copies of it, and everybody that was part of the booking and also took care of the towns would get copies of this. And I will show that next week. I will show that right here. As we're talking about Mid-South Wrestling, I'll show the things down. I'm not for sure Bill Watts wrote this stuff down. It looks like Jim Ross's writing. So I think he might have been writing down in Bill Watts' book what was going on.
Occasionally, do you see any brown nose prints on those pages?
I'll be back.
All right, folks. We'll man, I tell you what, we've been mean on this show. Jack's the only one that's been the baby face on this one.
Yeah,
I
surprise.
was asked not to be in again, but I just felt like I'm not being. I'm just telling the truth.
This is true, folks. We're just telling our thoughts and our all opinions. Brent West, Rodney West, Jack Lord, all our opinions and only our opinions. And all right, guys. Next time, Mid-South Wrestling, we'll look at more, and I'll have a couple of those.
And Jake just gets better. I'm just going to tell you right now. That's something to look forward to. Yeah.
All right, we will see that, and as we go further, let's go back.